Hey guys, Lauren here, coming at you with a new mini series called Body Awareness. So, taking a break on the bedtime series to bring you a little bit more attention to the overall body and what's happening throughout the practice, such that you can take it off the mat. I think the real beauty and benefit of yoga is not just that sweet sensation you feel after a good yoga practice, but it's when you can take some of the elements to your everyday life. So with that, we're going to start in our mountain pose. And today we're going to focus on our spinal alignment, our hip alignment, and health. We'll begin by grounding down through the feet. Mountain pose or Tadasana is probably the most important alignment posture, body alignment in yoga. And right away, before we do any sort of adjustments, just notice what's happening in your body. Notice if you're maybe over tightening or squeezing. Notice if you're shrugging your shoulders, you're grinding your teeth. If you can notice those elements of your posture, and start to bring awareness and start to soften, that is when the magic happens. So begin by spreading your toes wide, no gripping of the toes. Begin to find equal weight on the feet, balancing out the left and the right, the front and the back. And we'll find a little engagement through the calves as we lift the kneecaps. Slight engagement of the belly, not over tightening. Elbows straight, fingertips spread wide. Shoulders are relaxed. Chin is level. And crown of the head reaching towards the sky. Take a big full body breath in and full body breath out. Go ahead and begin to close your eyes and take another full body breath in and full body breath out. Go ahead and bring your palms to heart center. Let's set our intention. Maybe you've come to practice today to learn something new, or maybe to put into practice something you already know. Let's seal that intention with a breath in and a breath out. And go ahead and blink, open your eyes. Before we get started, go ahead and place your hands on your hips. I want to do a little pelvic rocking. So just slight bend in your knees as you rock forward and back. I'm going to turn sideways. So sticking your hips out and then forward. And just notice if there's one position that feels better than the other. And then seeing after you do that a few times if you can neutralize pelvic alignment, straight down. For me, I tend, and actually a lot of us tend to live in what's called this anterior tilt, where you stick your hips back, butt out. And what that is causing is really tightness in your hip flexors or a weak core. And so I have to spend extra attention on straightening through the pelvic, finding that natural curve in the back instead of overextending. So just notice where you live and make the subtle adjustment now. And we'll play with that throughout the class. Come to the top of the mat, arms by your side. And on an inhale, sweep your arms up overhead, palms pressed. And on an exhale, hinging from the hips, flat back before folding forward. On the next inhale, come into a flat back as we hold here. So your fingertips can graze on the mat, or place your palms on your shins, or follow me as I place my palms on top of my thighs, elbows high, relaxing through the shoulders, lengthening through the spine, belly engaged. Take another breath in, and then exhale, fold forward. Let's try that again. Inhale, flat back, belly engaged. Exhale, fold forward. One more. Inhale, flat back. And on the exhale, step back to your plank. Holding your plank as we set it up strong, finding that alignment here. So pressing through all 10 fingertips, pressing through the knuckles, spreading those fingers wide. Wrists are parallel to the top of the mat, slight inward rotation of the biceps, shoulders away from the ears, belly engaged, one straight line from the tip of your head to your toes. Take a breath in, and on the exhale, downward dog. First downward dog, you can go ahead and walk it out, just warming up. Maybe shifting your hips side to side. And then together, finding stillness in our downward dog. Again, finding that alignment here. We want a neutral spine, lengthening. To help with that, if you need to bend your knees, bend them as much as you need to. Go ahead and lengthen that spine. Again, pressing all 10 fingers into the mat, slight rotation of the biceps. Take a breath in. And on the exhale, go ahead and lower your knees. We'll come into a quick child's pose. You can separate the knees wide, sending your fingers forward. I'm just focusing on the breath here. Inhale. Exhale. Breathing through the nose. Fill up. Inhale. Exhale. Continuing with that breath, lengthening the exhale each round. We'll do a whole series on breath work. You can also check out some of the other videos that I have on breath exercises. But believe it or not, the breath is a key element to all of your postures and alignment. It does have an impact on how we align our bodies if our breath is not working properly. So take one more breath in and breath out. Coming into our tabletop, starting with a neutral spine. So bringing your wrist just under your shoulders, knees under your hips. If you've got a mirror, go ahead and take a look in the mirror and just notice where you tend to live. So right away, if I look at myself, you can tell I have that anterior tilt. It's where I tend to live. So I have to shift the hips forward slightly, lengthen through the spine, and then lengthen through the neck to find neutral. And on the next inhale, we'll begin to move through our cow, so dropping the belly, lifting the gaze. And on the exhale, rounding the spine, tucking the chin. Start to move through your cat and cow on your breath. Bringing awareness to what's happening in your hips as you move between cat, neutral, and cow. Maybe notice if there's one position of the three that you have a preference towards. That might be an indicator of where you live throughout the day. I know for me, again, it's that anterior tilt, and I think it's because I sit at a desk most of the day where my hip flexors are super tight, my core is weak, which drives that behavior. Taking one more round of cat and cow, and eventually coming into your neutral spine. And from here, coming into a kneeling position, and we're going to work spinal extension, a flat back, as well as spinal flexion. Starting with camel, go ahead and knees separated about hip width distance. You can go ahead and place your hands on your hips, just at your lower back, fingertips pointing up or down, elbows coming a little closer together. And we'll work a spinal extension here. So on an inhale, begin to lift the gaze, lift the chest towards the ceiling. As you exhale, slowly extending through the lumbar spine, the thoracic spine, and the cervical spine. Pressing your hips forward, doing your best to keep your hips over your knees, belly engaged. You want to reach for your heels. You can do so now. Maybe tucking your toes to shorten the distance. Take a breath in. And on the exhale, slowly rise, using your core. Arms by your side. Close your eyes, take a breath in. And a breath out. Moving into a plank, finding that strong alignment, holding here for a breath in, and on the exhale, shifting back, downward dog. So coming into your perfect downward dog, pressing the mat away, maybe nodding your head yes, shaking it no. Maybe coming high on the balls of the feet and then lowering the heels. Again, bending your knees as much as you need to lengthen through the spine. And your next inhale, riding forward to plank. Exhale, holding here. Slowly lower the knees. And this time working a tortoise pose, a seated tortoise. This is going to be a lengthened, long spine. So begin by inhaling, reaching your arms overhead, prayer hands, thumbs crossed. And on an exhale, lengthening through the spine, keeping your bum on your heels, extending, lengthening as you descend to the mat, doing your best to keep your bum on your heels, but if they lift, okay. As soon as your fingertip edges reach the mat, go ahead and lower the hips, and then reaching the pinky fingers forward. Active pose here, so belly engaged, using the strength of your inner thighs, pressing together. Lift your wrists about a 1/4 inch to get a little bit more activation in the arms. Take one more breath in, breath out. And strength move here as we move in one slow motion. Rise on your inhale, lengthen the spine. And on the exhale, bringing your palms to heart center. Closing your eyes for a second, taking in, slowly moving to our plank, this time holding for 2 breaths. On the second exhale, go ahead and release into your downward dog. This time in your downward dog, applying all the key principles. Taking 2 breaths. Next inhale, rise to plank. Hold for the exhale. Lowering the knees. And working this time a flexed spine as we do rabbit pose. Sitting back on our heels, arms by your side. Take an inhale. Exhale, tuck the chin, rounding forward. Curling up into a little ball as your forehead touches your knees. If they don't quite make it there, gently resting on the mat. You can stay here or begin to raise the hips, maybe grabbing onto the heels for some leverage. Working your shoulders away from your ears as you lift your hips a little higher. Tucking the chin, belly engaged. Take a breath in and a breath out. One more breath in and a breath out. Slowly releasing the hips to the heels as you round up, uncurling one vertebrae at a time. Chin is the last thing to release, shoulders relax. Close your eyes, take a breath in and a breath out. Finding your plank. 3 breaths this time. Sending your way back to downward dog on the 3rd exhale. Giving you plenty of time to build strength in the core as well as check in with your alignment. We'll all meet in downward dog. Taking one more breath in and breath out. Next inhale, rising to forward to your plank. And on your exhale, releasing the breath. Go ahead and lower the knees and sinking back into your child's pose. Seeing if you can fill up even more. Lengthen the breath even longer. Slowly coming back to our tabletop and shifting back to downward dog. From here, taking a slow walk to the top of the mat, as slow as you can, planting the entire foot. And get to the top, hanging heavy. The next inhale, moving to that flat back, lengthen. Just notice if you feel any different. And exhale, fold. Next inhale, rising through a flat back all the way to standing as you reach your arms overhead. On the exhale, sweeping your arms wide, coming back into your mountain. Just close your eyes, touch in. Notice if this mountain Tadasana feels any different than the starting mountain pose. One more breath in and breath out. Slowly making your way to your mat as you lower and lengthen long, extending the legs, finding mountain on your back. And just close your eyes and take notice of where the different points of your body are touching the mat. And pay particular attention to your hips, your lower back, your mid back, what is touching, what isn't touching. Begin to plant one foot on the mat and then the other. Bring your hands to your hips as we do a little pelvic tilting. Just again to notice what's happening with the pelvis as you shift the hips forward, shift the hips back, pressing the lower spine into the mat, working the lower spine away from the mat. Doing that a few times before coming into your neutral spine. Again, we talked about there's a natural curve of the spine. So you could stick maybe your fingertips at your lower spine, maybe a pencil, but there should be a little space there. And that's when you know you have your natural curve. That natural curve is a little different for everybody. So don't get too caught up in that. Go ahead and lengthen the legs and take notice, maybe what happens, any shifts that happen when you lengthen long. And here, as we wrap up this practice, if you want to bring your knees into your chest and give yourself a hug, maybe do a happy baby. So you reach for the insides or the outsides of the feet. You can rock side to side, just massaging the spine. And when you're ready, all lengthen long on the mat. So we move into our final resting pose, Shavasana. Begin to find movement in your fingers and your toes. Plant one foot on the mat and then the other. And slowly roll to your right side. So you bring yourself back to your intention, back to your breath. Keeping your eyes closed, come to a seated position, palms resting on the thighs. Bringing your hands to heart center as we seal this practice with a breath in and a breath out. Let's bow down and say, Namaste. Thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, please reach out. Namaste.